So Enzo, we're about to kick this off. We're at the trailhead. What are you thinking?
I don't know.
Yeah, Lily?
100 miles for my tiny little leg.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Gotcha.
I can't wait to get started.
Yeah. Micah, what you thinking, buddy?
I don't know, it'll be interesting. This is a lot longer trip than I've ever been on.
Yeah. Should take, it's 110 miles.
Yeah,
Yeah, take us maybe 11 days.
I'm excited.
Awesome.
My name is Enzo and I'm 12 years old, almost 13.
So Enzo, we're talking today about this awesome hike that you did, 110 miles or more on the Pacific Crest Trail. It was Section I, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
In Washington State. So tell me just generically, overall, what were your thoughts on it, just kind of in a macro sense now that you've completed it?
I didn't really think much of it, at the first part. I really just thought it was going to be a normal hike, and for sure it was not. Probably one of the most challenging hikes I've done.
Yeah, so you've done like multiple hikes. Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of hikes you've done before?
I've done Timberline, which is about 43 miles, early in the season. So there was a lot of over 100 down trees, bunch of snow crossings. If you go look at that video on our YouTube channel, you can even see 3 people sliding down a big ice kind of slide. One of those was me.
So you've also done the PCT before, right?
Yes.
What section was that?
I believe that was Section G.
Yeah. What'd you think of that one?
That one was a lot calmer. I definitely feel like I had more time to actually be with my family. I was kind of all over the place. But I definitely prefer hiking just with my family. It's a lot calmer, and it's a lot more organized. But it was definitely fun hiking on the Timberline and Section I with other families. It's really fun.
Awesome. So hey, let's start from the beginning on this hike. So first of all, as many know, most adults wouldn't hike Washington mountainous terrains for 110 miles. So maybe we'll just kind of give a breakdown from the first day. So it sounds like you picked up your dad at the airport maybe on that Friday before you left, and
Yep.
then did you stay at a hotel?
Yes, so we actually stayed in a hotel that we've known for quite a bit. We've never been in it. It was our first time. But after Section G, actually, there was this gas station, good gas station, by the way. And, usually what most people do is they stuff their faces with food. So we did that, and just across the street was a hotel, and that first day was the first day we got to stay at that hotel.
Awesome. And that was Packwood, Washington, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So you stayed the night at the hotel. It says you just kind of started packing on the food. What'd you eat that night before?
I think I had a ginormous pizza. This pizza crust was very huge. I'd recommend this place.
Yeah. So that night you go to sleep. You wake up. Sounds probably I'm assuming early in the morning.
Yeah.
And talk to me about that early morning when you get ready to leave.
So, if you look at the YouTube video, I brought my best friend. His name is Micah. So me and him woke up at about 7 to 7:30. I think we were supposed to leave at 8 something. So we had a little bit. So we kind of just sat there, and we're talking to each other about how much fun this hike is going to be. And then my mom came in with food, breakfast, really good. And then after we ate the breakfast, or during we ate the breakfast, we cleaned up. So we, cleaned up pretty fast. Tried to make it out to this area, kind of where a bench is. Got everything ready. We talked about the plans and if we're gonna go each to the right place. And we ended up it was about a 20-minute drive from the hotel. It was really fun.
So was that the trailhead where you parked?
Yes.
Okay.
So we were maybe 50 feet from the trailhead, parked really close to it.
So do you get nervous at all? I mean, now you're at this trailhead and you know you have a long hike ahead of you. You've got your buddy Micah with you. Sounds like some of your other friends as well. Were you nervous?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say nervous, just a little bit. But I felt very confident in myself that, I could do this.
Yeah. That's a great explanation and a great way to call it, confident, right? So now you're putting your packs on. I assume from the trailhead you find the Pacific Crest Trail, and so now you're hiking. Are you nervous? Are you excited? Are you? What are your thoughts there?
I wasn't nervous. I felt amazing, honestly, at that first bit. The first day we were going 13 miles. And I felt good. I felt like I could do that.
So your first day, well, it just came out like 13 miles then, huh?
Yeah. So on the first day, at 10 miles probably, I started feeling it. But something to put in your mind while you're hiking and to make you push forward is to know that if you hike this 13, 15, 20 miles, you'll get to this beautiful spot. Because as my dad did, and probably most hikers do, they plan out their spots and a backup. But we made it to our beautiful spot right by this amazing river, amazing campsite. But yeah.
So the first night campsite's near a river. Do you remember exactly what it looks like? Can you describe it for us?
Yeah. So as we got there, we saw the river, and I had 5 other people with me, including my sister. We were all kids. But we saw the river, and we were like, oh my gosh, is this our campsite? So we had to sit there a little bit, waiting for my mom and dad. But once we heard that it was our campsite, me and Micah set up our tent. He got our food ready. I set up our tent. First night was a good night. But probably maybe the river was about 20 feet long or wide. Really nice cold water. And then right above it was the bridge. But if you walk maybe 50 feet, you're at our campsite. We had 4 tents with us, but most of the last 5 days we only set up 3.
So the food, you mentioned the food. Was the food gross? I mean, it's dried food or freeze-dried food. Is it good? Is it gross? I mean, what do you think?
So it's not gross at all. There's one flavor out of the whole entire meal selection, which is like, I don't know, 25, 30. But there's one that I don't like. I'm not gonna say it. But it's just one I don't settle good with. But what I should have done but didn't do, I should have saved the best meals. Towards the middle and end, but instead I decided to gorge myself with the best meals at breakfast and dinner and lunch, which was not the best idea.
So you were eating the best ones in the beginning and then
Yes.
stuck with the gross ones.
Yes.
Really when you're tired, right?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So how are these meals made? Talk to us about the process and what you used.
So me and Micah brought this stove, really fast stove, But normally, if you look on some of our other videos, we have a jet boil, and we have 3 of them and then 1 tiny stove. But the jet boils are a masterpiece. We did a YouTube short about them. Hey guys, so here's another great product I'd recommend using. This is called the jet boil. We've used this for about 4 years now, and right now we are just finishing 10 miles today of the PCT section I, which is 110 miles. Again, this thing is amazing. You have canisters down here. This one lasts about 55 boils. It's as easy as 2 switches. You turn the gas on and you click this button back here. As you can see, it's orange over here. That means it's done. Then again, this is an amazing product. I'd recommend using it. They're amazing.
Are they heavy or?
Depends on how strong you are. That's what I gotta say.
Yeah. So depending on how strong you are, it's interesting. So can you just talk to us kind of, and maybe I should have started this in the beginning, but talk to us about your backpack. Can you show us what your backpack is?
Yeah.
And kind of break down that your backpack a little bit?
Yeah. Let me start with my poles. So these are black diamonds. No idea if they're normally used for skiing or not. We just found them. We're like, oh, black diamonds, sounds cool. I've had these things for 4 or 5 years. They are amazing.
And can you show us in the camera?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the ones I got were green. My sister got purple ones. Right there it says black diamond. And if you see right here, this is something my mom made on the trail in section I, and it's still on here. So, and then here's a awesome group that we saw on the trail. I think on our day that we were gonna hit the highest point, which was 64,000, 6,400. So this group is called Pass to Pass, and this group is for people that have medical issues, and basically they keep hiking even with their medical issues. They keep wanting to be with nature. So you sign up for this group. If you have a medical issue, you get to, ride with them. So what they use are llamas. And on that day, when I pulled up, I was kind of in the back. I just saw 4 llamas and I was like, oh my gosh, they're llamas. What is happening? So it was amazing, and there was watermelon. I did get a slice of watermelon, not wallermelon. It was amazing. There were really cool people there. Later that day, we saw them at our lunch site. They were setting up camp. It was spectacular, and it's amazing how much knowledge you have to have on them, because there's so many plants out there that you can't let them eat. But actually, you have to know a lot for llamas to go on trails.
Very cool. Yeah, and that group is called Pass to Pass, you said?
Yes, Pass to Pass. They even gave me a sticker right there.
That's pretty cool.
You see it? There we go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool story. So can you show us your backpack and kind of just break down just your backpack, what's on the outside of it?
Yeah.
And maybe where you carry your water?
So this is my backpack. It is an Osprey. I've had this 2 years now, but we've switched backpacks a lot. This is my 3rd backpack that I've used within my family. So I used to have my dad's, and then I used to have my mom's, and this is my mom's right now. My dad's using mine, and my mom is using my dad's. But I love this backpack.
And is that just because why the switch? Or you found out they fit differently or what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just they're more comfortable to other people. Hips fit better. It's a serious thing you have to have on trails. Hips help a lot. But anyways, to the backpack. We were using two 32 ounces. This one still has a little water in it. We were using two 32 ounces on each of our backpacks. So that was about 8 water bottles that have 32 ounces in them. But it was definitely, fun with these. We've had these ones. These ones are super cool because they're glow in the dark. But we've had these ones since our very first hike. These guys are seriously old. Still have them though, working great.
So what do you sleep on? Maybe would you pile some grass up, or did you just find a sandy field? Talk to us about the ground has got to be hard then.
It's definitely hard, a lot of roots. But we use these pads, and hopefully most of you have pads by now. If you don't have pads, you need pads. But these are called Wilderness Technology. We got these at a shop that, really cool. It's like a shop that you can, kind of like Goodwill, but for outdoors.
Awesome.
So these ones, we have 4 of them in total. Each of us have one. And since I'm in charge of building the tent and getting the inside ready, but these are seriously game changer. These are so much better. We had no pads for all of our camping trips besides this one. Or actually, we did have a pad for Timberline. Pads for Timberline. That was good. Really amazing.
Awesome. Hey, so you mentioned that your job was to get the camp ready. Talk to me about that. I would imagine everybody kind of has their role when you hit a camp.
Yes.
And you start setting up. So
Yes.
talk to us about what your role was.
So I kind of have 2 roles. So my first role, right when we set up tent, or right when we get to camp. Let's say I'm really fast at setting up the tent, so that's why I have another job. So I set up the tent, and my second job is to fill waters. So setting up the tent, we have a Krua tent, wherever it is, but we have a YouTube short about that. Hey guys, so this is the tent we've been using. It's called Krua Outdoors. We've had this for 4 years now, but finally we're starting to have some rips and some buttons fall out. 4 years. But right now we are just finishing our last 10 miles of the PCT Section I. This has been a game changer. We used to sleep in one-person tents, and this is big enough for all 4 of us. I definitely recommend this brand, but after 4 years, we are starting to have some rips and some buttons fall out. But I have nothing against this brand. This brand is amazing. But the Crew tent has been with us forever. It is amazing. We're just now having some problems with some buttons. It's a 4-person tent. It's amazing. I would totally recommend it if you're looking for tents for backpacking multiple days and you have a 4 to 5 person family. Really amazing. As I said, we just put these pads in. We get our sleeping bags, or I get the sleeping bags, the pillows, and then we bring water in there for middle of the night, and then I put all the shoes, so in case of emergency in the night that we need to go to the bathroom, we can just grab our shoes and go. And then, so about our water, or a water filter system.
And is that your second job?
Yes, that is my second job.
Okay.
So let me go grab it. It's actually right there. So this is Catadian. It's called Making Water, Drinking Water. So we've had this thing, or actually we have 2, but 3 on total in the trail. But ours was the first one to have problems. So first of all, only one pump was working and we were getting tiny trickles. And then if you built up too much pressure, if I can pop this out, no, I can't. But this, if you build up too much pressure, will just pop off. And this is how you get your water from the water source, whatever it is, to the pump to your water bottle. So when this was only doing trickles, it was definitely hard for us. On the second day, my dad realized, and we were like, uh-oh.
So that you had problems with your water filtration on the second day?
On the second day.
Wow.
And on, I believe, the third day, our second one went down, and we had 3 in total. Fourth day, our third one went down. So if I was you, just get a Sawyer, or if sometimes you see life straws that turn into just like a Sawyer, but the filter's inside the bottle, I'd recommend those.
And you did a video on that, I think I saw?
Yes, we did a video on that too. Okay, so what's up, guys? So currently we are on section I of the PCT. We are our 8th day in, I believe. But if you know from our previous videos, you usually see this pump. And this pump usually is our filter for our water source. As you can see, the hose broke off. Okay, so the hose broke off. I mean, look at this thing. It literally snapped. And it's so tiny. And then another thing is, you have to get this in the perfect environment. Like, it takes so long because you have to stack rocks and make sure it does not get in the silt. So if you are doing a long hike, I would not recommend this. And this thing is about $100. So for you, I'd stick with the Sawyer. The Sawyer is $25, and this is what saved our lives. If we didn't have this, we'd be doomed. But then again, this is $100, and there's so many moving parts. I mean, it's ridiculous. $100, and this just snapped because of pure pressure. So if I was you and you're doing a long hike, get this. Super, time, and maybe not as fast as this, but this compared to this is a huge game changer.
Now you wake up your first day. Now you're into your second day. Are you sore? How was the night? Was it cold? Was it hot? Cold.
Yeah, so very cold because we were right by a river, and that river was super cold. So all of that, I don't know how to explain it, but it all just pushed towards our tents, and we were super cold. But our first campsite was amazing. Like I said before, it was perfect.
So now you wake up, you make your breakfast, and you're kind of now moving along the second day. Was this an easy day, a difficult day? I think you guys were heading to maybe American Lake that day.
Don't think it was American. I do think it was a lake though. But wherever we were going, I knew it was gonna be amazing. And it was. All those days were amazing. You'd have to go check out the YouTube channel of the farm to go see that whole video and those YouTube shorts. But I did feel a little sore. I definitely didn't get the most rest. I only got 2 or 3 hours of rest.
So how do you do that? So now you've hiked 12, 13 miles the first day. You don't get much sleep. And now you're facing another, maybe 10 miles?
Yeah.
So how do you do that mentally?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't be able to do that without my dad and mom, and all my friends. So shout out to them.
Is that just kind of moral support or?
Moral support, everything. They're the ones who are there for me when I'm having tough times, and I'm gonna be there for them when they have tough times.
Yeah.
But it was, yeah.
All right, so now second day was American Lake, if I remember right. Third day, we started trekking to a place called Dewey Lake. Talk to me about Dewey Lake.
Yeah, Big Dewey. So from American Lake to Dewey, I think it was about 5 or 6 miles, which was, this was we had, throughout this whole trek, we had 2 days that were smaller than others. Normal days were 15, higher days were, or normal days are 10, higher days are 15, lower days were lower than 10.
So yeah, talk to me about the lower days. What caused us to do shorter days?
So on the first and second day, we were realizing that we were having to have a lot of struggles on the first and second day. So the parents had a conversation whether or not we should cancel the trip or just keep trekking on.
So that sounds pretty serious. What were some of the struggles? It sounds like some of the packs were a little maybe too heavy.
Too heavy, yeah.
Yeah, and then sounds like a couple people got dehydrated.
Yeah, so we had, my mom got dehydrated, or Micah got dehydrated, Maria got dehydrated, a couple people got dehydrated, and then Maria's pack was really heavy, and then Sawyer Ryder and Sawyer Ryder's pack were pretty heavy.
Okay, so they had a discussion about continuing or not continuing. Obviously they decided to continue, but maybe make 2 shorter days for people to heal, is that right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, and what do you think of that? Was that a good call?
I think it was a good call. I mean, we still made it out, before then we were supposed to make it out. We made it 10 days out when it was supposed to be 11 or 12, so
Yeah.
I think that was a great idea because we all got to revive,
Great. So you make it to Big Dewey. Was that trek hard or easy?
For me, it was a little hard. I was struggling at the time. Don't know why. We all have that time. But I'd say for other people it was pretty easy. But it was only 5 miles. I don't know why it was hard for me. But when we got there, we set up camp. I did my magic, you could say. And then, if you go to the YouTube video, we started to make this bunkers, you could say, or like ginormous sandcastles. So on my team, which was Sawyer, Ryder, and me, we built this like a giant lake, and put a frog in there, 2 frogs actually. And then the girls made a castle too, kind of, but that was fun. We washed up there, but I'd say it's a pretty good day. And then, yeah.
So you washed up, washed your bodies and what else?
Clothes, yeah.
Awesome. So now you're starting to hit elevation after Dewey. How was that? And I think you ended up at a pretty amazing lake, and I hear you built a raft.
Yeah. So
well, real quick, talk to me about that elevation. It sounds like it was pretty trying.
Yeah. So I believe we were going to some rest place where you can start a hike, but that elevation was insane. We started off, I think every morning we started off with going up instead of down, which I kind of liked. But yeah, it was definitely a good push. But I think it was definitely worth it at the end. I think it was only 8 miles, 7 or 8. Anyways, So when we got there, we had a big debate whether we should keep going for another 8 miles with that could possibly not have water, or stay here. So we stayed there, and that was the second short day. But there we we found a raft, you could say. Yeah, a raft. It was cool. We made a paddle for it. That was a really fun day. That was probably one of my favorite days, for sure.
So now you're in elevation. Is it? I'd imagine it was colder that night and day.
To me, it wasn't really cold. But I did notice that I started to have like more and more weirder dreams, like scarier dreams. It was really
Interesting.
weird.
Like what?
So I think on that night, I had this dream where our neighborhood, like in a zoo, like a panther and a tiger got loose.
Huh.
And they, like, you know, I can't go into too much detail because it's YouTube. But it was insane, and each day it got weirder and weirder. And I think on the last couple of days, so when I had cancer, every night I'd have these dreams that I would be falling in like a ginormous black void, you could say, but the walls are like concrete. And the last couple of days I had those dreams. It's really weird.
Huh. That's interesting. Yeah. So now you're at this lake where you built a raft, and it sounds like it rained that night.
Yes, it did. So that night I was sleeping with Micah. He woke me up and he was like, "Dude, where's your backpack?" I was like, "It's under the cover." He was like, "Oh." But his backpack wasn't under the cover, so he ran to go get his backpack, but he couldn't find the flashlight, so I had to get the flashlight for him. That was an interesting, I think it was like 1 a.m. Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah.
So now you leave that lake. Now you're starting to get even more elevation. What were your thoughts on that? Because now you're starting to hit some real Washington terrain.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
I would just think that what the view would be like up there, especially it would be amazing in the mornings. I'd wake up, you know, you'd go uphill, but then usually you'd camp at the lake, and you'd look over and you'd see the lake, and it's many miles from you. It's just amazing to think that you went that far uphill that quickly from that lake.
Yeah. So now you're starting to trek through the mountains. Now that you're in the higher elevations, it sounds like you start to have water shortages. Were you worried about water?
No. So the first day, I believe it was 7 miles without water, which at that time, I didn't even realize that it was 7 miles without water until after the 7 miles without water. But then when we got to the day where we had to go 12 miles without water, that was definitely a push. But
were you nervous about that at all?
no, honestly. I was just talking to my dad the whole time about stuff. So, you know, time flew. I think that day we went our fastest, which was we went 2 miles without no breaks and something like that. That was a great day.
So, without water, obviously, and you had the early onset of dehydration. What if somebody did get dehydrated and was getting full body cramps? What preparations did you guys have for that?
So we all brought IV kits.
Do you have those? Can you show us?
I believe I might have one still in here, actually. So this is the IV kit right here. Here, give you guys a little closer look. But we each carried one of these.
So you had your kind of own individual IV kit for
Yeah.
dehydration or emergencies?
Yeah, so we had a total of 4 in total.
Uh-huh.
For 4 people. So that was nice. Of course, no one got really super dehydrated, so we didn't have to use these. I got 2 more things to show you about what we brought for medical supplies. We did bring stuff for broken ankles and wrists and stuff for down.
Yeah, so that's a high risk, obviously, in this mountain terrain and loose rocks and slate and probably mud. Who made those? Where did you get those?
So my dad actually made these. So I wish we made a YouTube video about it. But we did with my dad a week of medical training. So me, my sister, my mom, and of course my dad who taught us, all have medical skills now. We know how to wrap up ankles. We know how to, stop bleeds. We know how to put on tourniquets. So I carried this. We only had one. But we did have a couple SAM splints, which if you don't know what they are lifesavers.
So have you ever had to open up that kit in any of your adventures?
Yes, I have. So at Rock Creek Horse Camp, was it Mother's Day? I don't know. But we did 15 miles on horseback, and we got to this river where I had to take the horse across, and we went up this hill. And then as we went up the hill, the horse stepped on my ankle, sprained it. But we had to pop this guy open. Luckily we wrapped it up, got right back on for another mile or 2.
Awesome. So what if somebody got sick from the water or just the flu or anything like that? Talk to me about other kind of medical things.
So me and my dad did a thing with Duration Health. We basically did a online medical kit or
Like a consultation?
Yes. So this is what I brought for all of us. Tiny bag. It fit perfectly. But it basically has everything from...
Can you show us?
Yeah. So here's one of them. So some of these are meant for kids. Some of these
So they're specifically prescribed for you and your dad, but in reading over them, they're kind of like a prophylactic or pre-prescribed medical intervention for everything from dehydration or diarrhea or vomiting or even the flu. I think I read in one of those. Are they heavy?
No, not at all.
No.
If you were here, you'd feel the weight.
Can you show the camera the whole kit?
Yeah, so this is the first part. We have 4 bottles right here. This is the first one. And then we move into the second part.
So in there it looks like amoxicillin and all the different prophylactics or medications you would need for different interventions, huh?
Yes, and in here we have 5 cases of different type of pills. So in total we have about 8.
Different types of medication?
Or 9, yeah.
Great.
Yep. We didn't even have to pop these out at all, which was amazing. But we were prepared for anything to go wrong on this trip. Don't worry, nothing went seriously wrong. But yeah.
So now you're trekking along and you're in this kind of huge mountain environment. Were there ever times you had to not have water to go to sleep, meaning not by a lake or a river?
Yes.
So talk to me about those.
Those were definitely, I'd say, probably the most difficult nights, honestly. Because of course we'd have to save water for food in the morning. So in the middle of the night, when we'd take our sleep aid, we'd all take sleep aid, we just have to swallow it without water. wasn't too bad, but it was okay, but probably one of the most difficult parts of the trip.
Skip a few days, noting that you're climbing multiple peaks and valleys. You're going up and you're down, and were there any notable views?
Amazing views.
Yeah.
If you're looking for views, go on this hike. You'd have views ranging from just lakes to Mount Rainier. It's amazing.
So, throughout this 110 miles, was the terrain, or at least I should say the landscape, was it just all trees, or did you have any other type of environment?
Yeah, so it was 3 different types basically. We had in the woods trees, and then we had dead trees, which were hard for us when it was really hot out.
So, what do you mean dead trees?
So, trees that went through fires and that are still standing. So with no brush, you have no cover from, the sun of the daylight. So that was probably a difficult part of the hike. Yeah.
And what was the third type of?
Rock. So we'd have a couple stretches with just purely rock. But yeah.
Was that difficult to traverse?
So something that me and my dad do is we can't go down a hill and then stop midway. It's hard on our ankles and knees. So we have to stay in the back and then, we wait to go down faster. But in those rocky areas, we couldn't do that because it was, more of a risk to hurt your ankle.
So did you have any foot issues, ankle issues?
Foot issues. So we had, I think only our family and Scott had blisters. My dad had the worst for sure. My mom had a total of 9, I believe. And then I have a big one right on my foot. Lily didn't get any.
So how do you do that when you have a blister on your foot? How do you mentally keep pushing? Because you still have to go many miles, I would imagine.
Yeah. So thankfully, as I said before, my dad is medically trained, so he fixes us up, puts new skin, moleskin, and then you'll feel it just a little bit, depending on how many or how bad it is. You'll always feel it, hiking. But something I'd recommend that we never found out until this guy from Germany, I believe. He wears socks that have, how gloves are where they have the finger things?
Mm-hmm.
Those, but for your toes. So that was very interesting. He'd wear those, and then he'd wear a thin layer of sock over those, and then a thicker layer, and then his shoes.
Oh, that's interesting. So now let's just kind of fast forward. Now you're at your last night, and I believe it's called Mirror Lake.
Yep.
What was that lake like?
That lake, my favorite lake, for sure. Just because it was so beautiful, the water was amazing. You'd look over, you'd see the lake, and if you look up, you'd see this type of triangle of a peak, and it was amazing. Purely just one of my favorite lakes.
So this night, knowing it's your last night, were you excited, sad maybe? What were your feelings knowing that this would be your last night?
So I knew that since it was my last night, I had to make the best of it. So me and my dad's, we watched this YouTube channel. It's all about ghost stories and haunted stories and stuff like that. So me and my dad went one by one after each other, telling ghost stories to the whole group. Freaked some people out, especially my sister. But to other people, it was just amazing. That day, we also built a raft. Didn't work. but it was cool to make. We all dunked in basically. Yeah.
So now your final day. You're hiking out, right? I think it was a 10-mile hike out.
Yeah.
What were you feeling?
I knew that I have to stick with the crew. If I started with the crew and they're there for me when I had hard times, I'm going to be there for them when they have hard times, and we're all going to finish the line as a group.
Great. So now you're at the finish line. You can maybe see where the staged vehicle is. Talk to me about that feeling.
That feeling, I got excited. But I also forgot what I just said, that I have to end with the group. I got too excited. But I did, was able to get myself back into, be able to finish as a group.
Great.
And I did this thing, I videoed it too, it's gonna be in the YouTube channel, where the finish line is you stepping onto the RV, and each person chose a quote or saying and said that before they stepped on the RV.
Ah, that's interesting. So what quote did you say?
So my quote, it wasn't really a quote. It was, I didn't even say it on camera. I just walked out real quick and said it. Went back in. I don't remember it.
All right. If you can sum up this whole trip in maybe just a couple words, what would you sum this whole trip up as?
Talking 3 or 5 words.
Whatever you choose.
Okay. Let's go with dead in the middle 4.
Okay.
So, first word, amazing, spectacular, challenging, and let's go mentally challenging.
Awesome. So obviously you guys are experienced hikers. Would you recommend somebody do this 110 miles?
What do you mean for first time?
Yeah, maybe a first or somebody who's just getting into hiking.
So, what I would recommend is maybe doing little sections of it. Maybe doing 10-mile sections of it, to roads, to go to Mirror Lake or somewhere, or to the start, to the river that we went to.
So this is definitely not a first time.
Not a first time. I'd say if you wanted to do this hike, do it in 2-day sections. If this is your first time hiking.
So if there are other kids your age out there who are maybe not as confident as you are in this, as you mentioned earlier, what would you say to them? But want to do this kind of thing.
Want to do it but can't?
Yeah, or think they can't.
I'd say whether or not you think you can or can't do it, do it. It's never gonna be, oh, I can't do it, or I can do this. It's always gonna be, whether if you think you can or can't. So whether or not, if you think you can, then do it anyways. If you think you can, do it, for sure.
Great. Thank you. Any last remarks?
Hoorah.
So can you tell us your first name and how old you are?
My first name is Lilliana and my age is 8.
You're 8 years old. So when did you first start hiking?
Way back.
So what is way back?
Like when I was 6, I started
Yeah.
hiking. That was my first ever age to hike, and that's
Right. So you just finished 110 miles of hiking. You're the youngest, right? Yeah. So what were your thoughts overall? Just if you could sum it up before we have this discussion, what do you think of it?
Well, I was definitely very scared. I'm like, what if I get hurt? What if something hurts me in my stomach? What if I fall off a cliff? I was
Yeah, because there's some pretty high high climbs, right? Some areas where it was just like straight to the bottom, I would imagine. Yeah. So, do your parents carry all your gear and you just kind of walk on your own, or talk to us about what you're bringing with you?
Well, I carry all my stuff. Like I carry my food, my pad, my sleeping bag. I carry my hat, all of my gear that I'll need.
So, how heavy was your pack?
It was 12 pounds, but I usually carry 20.
Okay, so on other hikes you carried 20. So why only 12 pounds on this hike?
Because we tried to weigh it down on this one. Like some people would take like a little bit of my stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So can you show us your backpack?
Okay, if I can get it up here.
Oh, interesting. So that's a full-size backpack then, huh?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Did it fit you well?
Uh-huh. It definitely fit me more in the waist and the butt, if you can see.
And did you carry your own water, or did somebody carry your water?
I carried my water. My water bottles are way deep in there.
Ah. Do you carry just one?
I carried 2.
2 waters?
Other
Oh, on
one
both sides. So you said your hat. I think I see a hat there. What is the hat for?
The hat is for if the sun gets in our eyes, we could wear it like this.
Ah. So this hike you went with some friends. Who were your friends that were with you?
So there was like Katya, Sawyer, Ryder, Micah, my family. That's it.
Yeah. And of course the other adults.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So how does an 8-year-old like you do 110 miles?
You just have to think, like, when you're done with the whole hike, you'll be feasting on delicious food.
Is that what you were thinking through the whole hike? Yeah. So, as you're hiking, was there any moments where you were just exhausted? And talk to us about those moments.
So, one moment, I think, I was crying because,
So you were crying. You just kind of hit that breaking moment, huh? Yeah. Tell us about that.
my feet were hurting. I was in the front. I felt like when you're in the front, like you feel all this pressure on you because like people ask you to go faster, slower.
So was that your first time in the front? Have you ever been in the front
Oh,
before?
I've always been in the front.
So this whole hike, where were you?
I was usually in the middle, the back, and the front.
Yeah. So were you slow? Were you fast? Why would they put you in the front?
Because some days I would be fast, some days I would be slow.
I see. So talk to us about your meals. Were they gross? Were they yummy? Talk to me about what you ate.
I usually always eat granola. and then this hike, and then the next hike and this hike, I discovered there in these red packs there was mac and cheese.
You like mac and cheese, I take it?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you ate granola, mac and cheese, anything else?
I ate lasagna meat sauce, I ate beef stroganoff, and then I ate one other food that I can't get to my mind.
I think I read oatmeal. You're maybe a fan of oatmeal?
Yeah.
Yeah. Were there anything else that you would be taking, like as you're walking? What kind of snacks did you have, or if you did?
Well, I did have some frog feel, which gave me lots of energy. And then I also had goose. I think that's all I remember.
I think I read somewhere that you were trying to trick everybody into giving you beef jerky.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, talk to me about that.
I'm a big meat lover, so I'm like, I can bargain you a frog feel for a beef jerky pack, and Enzo and Micah were like, no. And then the last day, one of my friend's parents gave me beef jerky, and I'm like, yes.
So, when you ended this hike, what were your feelings?
I was like, I'm 8 and I can manage 110 miles.
Do you understand the significance of that? Like, do you understand how hard that is for some 8-year-olds?
Yes.
You do? What makes you understand that?
All of my kids in my class are like, look, I got a scratch. And it was like this big. And I got these big bruises like on the side of my leg.
So you did get cut up or something? Yeah? I also read that you got attacked by mosquitoes here and there. Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Talk to me about that.
I have lots of mosquito bites still.
Yeah?
All of my arms, I got some bruises.
So how do you keep pushing when you're getting scratched up? And I heard there was one day of rain and some hail, and obviously you're cold. You got bug bites all over you. How do you keep pushing?
It's just easy for me, I guess, because I had lots of training. Because at my house, there's lots of biting from Apollo and Onyx and fighting, and I have to get in there and stop them.
So you live on a farm?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're used to kind of getting scratched up and stuff? What would you say to somebody who's not used to that but wants to go on a hike like this?
I would say, like, just think, like, about what's your favorite thing in the world, and think about that in your mind instead of all these scratches and coldness and...
So would it be correct if I said, don't think about the struggle, put something else in your mind positive, and just kind of trick your mind, maybe? Is that what you're saying? Great. So it's your last day. You get to the staged vehicle. You know you're about to go to a hotel. Are you happy it's over? Are you sad it's over? What are your feelings?
I'm in the middle because I'm like happy because I get to jump in the pool and shower.
Yeah.
And then I'm also sad because I saw these amazing views. I got these lakes that I can also swim in.
Yeah. If there's anything else that you want to say, what would you say to anybody watching this video?
Always catch frogs.
Is that what you guys did? You guys were catching frogs?
Uh-huh.
Was that a fun part?
That was very fun.
Yeah.
I gotta learn that frogs aren't scary.
Yeah.
Like these big toads, these little frogs. There was these frogs that were this big that I saw.
The wildlife was pretty awesome?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So what's your first name, and if you don't mind, what is your age?
Robyn, and my age is 44.
So 44 years old, and you decided to go on a 110-mile hike through some of the wildest mountainsides that the West Coast can offer, and you bring 2 kids. What is your thought process there?
I'm just kind of along for the ride. Like, I thought it was a bit much, honestly, like thinking of that kind of mileage, but knowing how our kids took on, the Timberline Loop Trail at 42 miles with, excessive challenges, as well as last year doing Section G, they did fine. So I'm kind of in the boat, like if my husband thinks my kids can do it, then they can do it. For me, I was just more, I knew it was gonna be more mental for me because it was more days to get through. And I'm usually maxed out at like a 5 or 6 day, especially if you're doing 10 plus miles a day. But no, I'm up for the challenge, and I really just have to show up. I mean, my bag's pretty much packed and the route is secured. I just kind of have to show up and not complain.
So I get that, but you're still a parent. You still got kids. How do you keep them motivated? I'm sure a lot of parents are like, my kid won't even leave the couch or take the trash out. How do you get them to do all these adventures?
I think doing it together is key. And, last year we learned that doing something like this right before the chaos of school starts and, your schedule gets a little crazy is a really good time to kind of clear out the noise and just reconnect as a family before you tackle that next year. And I think the kids benefit from just having undivided attention where there's no outside influence whatsoever. It's just us out there in nature.
So you make it sound easy in a sense.
It's not easy.
Were there any days where the kids were struggling or you were struggling?
Yeah, you see the kids struggle. I think Enzo is now to the age where, he saw me struggling and he decided to take from the front and come to the back and help me. And I had a breaking point where I just told him that I needed a good cry and he needs to go up front. So I think we kind of what's good in a sense is you get very comfortable with each other and knowing what each other is capable of, and you see, you know, like I see Lily in the front struggling, so I get up there and I try to sing a song or motivate her. So it's good to have those moments, because it's always good to recognize when somebody's at their breaking point, because you need your children to feel that so that you can push them past it, because in life they're going to hit their breaking point, and them knowing what their breaking point is at a young age and then being able to overcome it will only help them for the future.
Yeah, wonderful. So the first couple days in talking with Enzo, it sounds like there was a discussion about a go or no go. Sounds like some people hit some dehydration issues, some pack issues. Talk to me about that conversation.
I think that, you know, my husband has a medical background, so he sees things that I don't necessarily see. I mean, I saw, you know, there were some people struggling, and it's good to have that realization where it's like, you need to nip that in the butt if we're going to continue to move on. Like, this is what I'm seeing right now, and if we don't stop that, then we're not going to continue on, because it's an unsafe environment. It's difficult to have those, but you do need to have those realizations before you enter the backcountry, where there's less water sources and there's more space between stops and more challenges, where you're that much farther away from civilization, and to have somebody come and rescue you or help you.
So this sounds like it happened on day 3. It sounds like everyone decided to maybe split the days, make one day into halves. Was that a good call, a bad call? What do you think?
I think so. I think the kids needed to have that balance of fun and also pushing them, right? Like, we had 2 solid days of pushing, and then they could see that they have more of a rest, and then to see that they have energy, right? To kind of gauge, do they have energy to play? Are they eating? And then, you know, that you can continue to push them, right? But it's finding that fine line, and each kid is different of where, you know, the breaking point is versus like the play, and continue to push and challenge them.
So earlier you said you had a breaking point where you had to have a good cry. What got you there?
Blisters, my feet, and trying to get through that mentally of like, you have to just continue to push on, even though your feet are telling you that you shouldn't be continuing to walk on them when you have 6 blisters, and then you kind of are walking differently, and then you get more blisters. But it's just that fatigue and overpowering your mind telling you to stop, because there really is no stopping. You have to continue to go. But yeah, it's, you know, we all get those points where our body and our mind is trying to trick us into telling us that we can't do something when we really can.
So I get that, what you said earlier about, you know, pushing the kids beyond their limits, but, you know, you're an established woman, you're a mother, you're a career woman. Why do this?
Because it benefits our family so much, I would say. I think, and I see the kids' growth in completely removing everything outside and just reconnecting, like, with, I guess it's kind of like you clear out the noise of life, what life has to be, and teach them how to be okay and comfortable with the simplicities of life. You know, sleeping in a tent, being dirty, not showering for 10 days but you know, you can survive anything, so you can do it, and you can enjoy the process of it, I guess you'd say. So
Enzo told us, you know, that everybody had their individual IV kit. Mm-hmm. Were there any other medical supplies that you guys brought?
Oh yeah, so we had I believe this is the suture kit.
Sutures is in like putting sutures in a cut?
Right.
And can you show us?
Yeah, so this is the suture kit. Let me turn it around. So we've got everything you'd need, right? You've got your moleskin over here, which definitely came in handy. Tape, gauze, and then many a times we had to use the scissors to cut out especially my husband had probably the most severe blister where it went all the way through the skin to muscle. So we had to cut it out and then bandage it. But this is only one of 3. So let me show you. Then he also brought IVs just in case we needed to use them. So this would be like the IV kit. And we also had extra IVs that each person brought to make sure we had enough for all the people that are were with us. And then finally the medical kit, which it's surprising to see that people will actually go to the back country and, you know, oh, that's the tourniquet. We have a tourniquet. But they'll go to the back country with just a simple medical kit. I mean, and you really need to be more prepared. Let me just get this open so you guys can have a look, see. So we've got everything from a medical blanket, liquid bandage, Neosporin, of course, is our friend. And then we've got all the one use of sterilization alcohol, swabs. Yeah, so I'm not a medic, but I just know that this is very thoughtful, as well as he had medicines in case any of us had reacted to maybe a water source, or we were hitting like a mental fatigue of some kind and needed some kind of additional help. But he also did make sure that we were getting all of our nutrients, which through the frog fuel, which was giving us all the vitamins that we needed when we had like a depleted body and a fatigued body, which I think was really handy also.
So Enzo told us that you guys also went through like a week of basic, medical care.
Yeah. And I think that was really important for us to be able to identify if somebody's needs help, or if somebody's trying to, look past a potential injury. And, each night we would have a blister check, and, we'd make sure that everybody was looking at each other's feet to make sure that they were both getting dry, and they were without blisters. And if they did have blisters, they had moleskin, or they'd been treated of some kind, so it didn't become more of a serious issue.
So what I've learned is everybody kind of had a job at camp.
Mm-hmm.
What was your job?
Boiling the water in the jet boil. The jet boil. This is my buddy. So this is the go-to, right? And it boils in, I think, less than a minute. So it's 2 cups of water that's in here, which will go 2 of the Mountain House meals. So really you have to just boil water twice. And you just put the little propane kit attached to this and put the water in, and you're good. It also came in handy when we had issues with the water filtration, because we need to boil water. So you could put water directly in from a lake and then boil water for your meals versus having to sterilize it or filter it and then use it. So
as a mother, somebody who's, out in the community like you are, a lot of people have heard about, and it was even written in the paper about the kids, and I know a lot of other mothers have made comments and statements to you about this trek. What advice would you give to them for the ones that said, gosh, it's been my dream to do something like that?
You need to have somebody in charge that understands how maps work, where water sources are. I mean, my husband does all that. So, I mean, we're all in good hands. But if you don't have a true leader that knows where the sources are, where you're stopping, what's your route, what does the mileage look like, it would be virtually impossible, because you could get lost very easy. You would not understand water sources. I mean, we had one that we had to go 12 miles and we knew in advance that there was 12 miles without water. So I would say you would need to start small and see if you can handle that before you tackle anything, as intense as, 10 days where, really for the majority of the time we were in the true backcountry. So we were far away from civilization, but we did have the inReach, which was handy, and we were able to communicate with our oldest son as well as Micah's parents, so that he knew exactly where he was and that he was safe. So
So could you talk to us about InReach? What is that?
So InReach is a GPS device, and it's a subscription service where you can text from the device and give an exact location of exactly where you are, so that anybody that you text this to, they can go onto the map, they can click the link, and it will show exactly where you've been where you are on your route.
So if you needed help, you could...
Correct.
I see.
Correct.
So along the trail, you came across, sounds like, some characters.
Yes.
Some people doing the whole route from Mexico to Canada. Do any of those people stick out to you?
So we had a few that I thought, and I enjoy talking with all of them because I think it's so inspiring, especially the amount of people that you see out there that are all alone doing that. And I can't even imagine doing that whole 2,000 miles alone. But there was Slap Happy that, just decided to sit down and tell the kids some stories about his adventures and what his favorite spots were. We had Dash that we found at the cabin that had worried about us the night before and found us the next day. And he was, finishing up his trek. We had Namaste, which was from Germany, and he's the one that talked to us about the, what he uses for his shoes, and he's climbed mountains all over the world, and a lot of people from out of the country come to do the trail, which I thought was really surprising. And then the very end would be Nav, which was a girl probably in her early 20s, was completing the trek by herself, and her name was Nav, short for navigation. And I thought, wow, a young 20-year-old girl, I really hope that that's my daughter at that age, taking on that huge task and, growing and learning. And her dad had met her, and they did the last 5 miles together. So it was just very inspiring. I would say that's probably one of my favorite things, is to see people along the way and to just chat with them, where are they from? Why are they doing this? What are they getting out of it? What was their favorite parts? And no one person had one favorite part. There was a favorite part from each individual area.
Yeah, so some of the names were really interesting.
Yeah.
Can you name a few more?
Gosh. There was Shopper at the end. I know Vulture. We saw Panama at the end, which was, the old timers are the great people to see, because you're just thinking in your 70s, maybe possibly 80s, these people are tackling these trails that, young people won't even do. So I think those are also inspiring. The old people are always the ones that are just yeah, look, get these kids out here. So let's see, Panama was an older one. Vulture was an older one. No, I guess I can't. Offhand, I can't think of any more.
So you said some people were excited to see the kids.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
So they were just in awe of the kids being able to tackle such a huge stretch of the PCT, and they thought it was inspiring. So it's you inspire each other. But yeah, I would say the older ones are the ones that were just so excited to see the kids, because they're probably thinking in their head, my grandchildren could be doing this, right? But yeah.
So trail names on the PCT. What was your trail name, or is your trail name?
Mama Bear or Mama Oso.
What about both the kids?
Little Bear, Little Oso, Enzo, and Lily was Singing Bird.
Why Singing Bird?
Because she's always singing. Her and Katya would always be singing, but she was the more quiet one, more reserved. But even at home, she's always singing.
So now it's your last night, and you're at a place called
At our
Mirror Lake.
favorite spot.
Yeah. Talk to me about Mirror Lake, your favorite spot.
It was a trek to get into it, and we had a shorter day. We were only doing, I think, 9 miles that last day, but it was an intense hike just to get into it. And I was thinking in my head, I sure hope this is worth it. But you're literally climbing half a mountain, and then there's and all this rock is around it. So you're having to go up and over these rock formations, and even there was a lot of tree roots that you had to climb, but it was a really fun and intense hike to get up into it, even to get out of it. So it's nice. It's like a secret. I guess you kind of think that because you have to really work for it to get to it, and then you see this like a beautiful lake, and then you see, all the rock in the background, and then just to wake up and just to see the sunrise in the morning, and this calm lake. And not to mention, of course, we all needed a shower very desperately at that point. So it was nice to dip into the water and get into it. But it was a just unbelievable view.
So each night, obviously you stay in a tent.
Yeah.
Talk to me about sleeping.
So we had thought that we would only need our summer sleeping bags, which are really not that insulated. I think they're for like 40 degrees or more, maybe 30. And we underestimated the temperatures. I think if I was to go back, I would still want my big sleeping bag. But it's always challenging for me to sleep in a tent and outdoors. I mean, you think I'd be peaceful, but I kind of get stressed out about animals outside. But we do have our sleeping pads now, which are unbelievable. And then our tent is very comfortable and very cozy for the four of us. But yeah, I think I would have packed a better sleeping bag on this trip because I was cold.
So your last night, you're hiking out. What are you thinking?
I can't believe we did this. I can't believe my kids, like, just to see your children be able to tackle something that, that was the first time I had ever done something like that in my life. And I'm thinking, my children are 12 and 8. And if they can achieve things like this and know that they can achieve things like this, like, the world is, the possibilities are endless for them, just to understand that they can do these big things and do them very easily.
So you're now at a hotel. You get to have your first shower and your first bed. What are you thinking?
Felt so good. And the white sheets, just to get like into the white sheets all clean, felt good. And we all went in the pool, of course, just to eat a meal, and to be able to go to the bathroom in a bathroom. So I think it makes you really appreciate the more luxuries of life, the choices that we have to eat, to sleep, to live. And I think it makes the kids value those even more so.
So that, you brought up the bathroom. That's one we haven't talked about. I'm sure a lot of people are curious, like, how do you go to the bathroom?
You have to go to the bathroom in the woods. You have to bring a thing of toilet paper and you go in the woods.
But how do you do it? Do you lean against a tree? I mean,
yeah, that's the easier way. Or you squat, right?
Is it uncomfortable? I mean,
you just get used to it. Again, these are the luxuries that, we have today that they didn't have, forever. So I think we take life for granted. And I think in these experiences, it helps the kids appreciate more the life that we have and the life that we provide for them. And even, me appreciate the things that I have and that, me and my husband have worked for.
So if you could sum this trip up with a sentence or a few words, how do you sum this up?
I think at the end of last year's hike, it was, live life boldly, or
yeah, I think the quote Enzo said was, the world belongs to the bold.
Yes. And I would also, my quote at the end when Enzo asked us was, do hard things, because in those hard things you really grow as a person. And even, it's just nice to be able to grow as a family, right? We've moved all over, we've done many things, but in each one of those things you grow, but it's important to also grow together as a family and to see each other through those like ups and downs and hurdles. And even if you have to create those ups and downs and hurdles, it's good to be able to overcome them together and see your children like grow. And I was watching a video of Lilliana's first hike, which was 17 miles, and I was earlier today, and I was just, watching how remarkable it was to see her, 2 years ago and to today, where she was just full charge down the trail, and she was the leader probably the majority of the time, and it was just amazing. I was just very thankful to be able to give that to my daughter specifically. Enzo just, this hike, he really stepped up. And I mean, he was first to set up the tent, get things in order. He was like Johnny on the spot. Anybody needed help, he was there. And I love that so much about him. He's always willing to be helpful and help people out. He's very compassionate.
Is there anything else you want to tell us?
No. Thank you to my husband for planning and being the person responsible for all of us.